demanding a parcel of land behind Bema camp. Yesterday, the fetish priests and priestesses joined the youth on a demonstration. In fact, there was near violence around the cantonment head office of the Lands Commission. We also understand that the sector minister was nearly embarrassed. We'll be telling you more about this on this program because they'll be joining us. I want to also find out from them, what really do they use the monies for? Because over the years, we hear chiefs in Ghana, especially, fighting for land. Do they do this on behalf of their citizens or indigents, or they do that for their own selfish interest? These are conversations that will be on this program.
Eric, quickly, why did the military run before the libation?
Well, that is alleged. Or otherwise, let me just borrow from Sefa Satha. You remember there was a video that went viral when there was some demonstration around Agbebulushi.
Right.
And then one good friend of mine, Seth Kwame Boateng, was interviewing him as he was walking into his car. And then the interview actually came out as if he was running from the scene. Later in his reaction, he said, sometimes you need to take strategic decisions in order not to aggravate the situation.
So that was
I was not there. If it happened, I believe that was the reason.
Oh, I see.
Well, we'll be talking about what the papers are reporting. Yesterday, unfortunately, the 13 children who died at Apam have been buried mass burial. I believe many of you followed it yesterday, and it is also going to be part of our news. And then there's a story that is going around that somebody stole a ring, and this is a Sakawa ring. And I've seen the video of the so-called ring on somebody's finger, and nobody can remove it. I don't know if it is really true.
They would have to cut his finger off because it's very swollen.
Cut it off.
That's the only option at this point.
Somebody told me yesterday a blacksmith tried to cut it off and it didn't happen. So that is why you see a portion of that ring chopped off. A lot of things are happening around.
Yes. I actually saw something on Twitter this morning. So 4 men have been hanged in Iran for gang raping a woman, which I think is a major issue that we should be looking at. But in here, I think the rape cases are not as much as...
They may be, but it is also possible that a lot of people, because of stigmatization, are not coming out.
Yes, true.
Otherwise, I don't know what, but it is something that is also of concern in this country. We'll be taking a break. When we come back, we will tell you more on the front pages, but you can't do that break without having a feel of how your weather will be in wherever you live in this country. Welcome back. This is the morning update on TVXYZ and Wezo TV. Today is Wednesday, and I believe that you are already in a position to judge whether this week has been good for you or bad. But even if it started bad, I believe the next 4 days or so is the opportunity you have to reverse anything that didn't go well for you. If you are sad, make yourself happy. And of course, if you have more than necessary, stretch an arm to somebody around you. For all you know, that neighbor needs that little support to survive and to ask for God's blessings for you. If you drive around and you see poor people who are struggling to survive and you are touched, sometimes you can stop, have a conversation with those people, give them encouragement, and let's all help to improve the conditions of anybody around us for the better. That's the only way you can be proud that indeed God is using you to make a positive impact on somebody.
I mean, I do like that advice, but the but with that is sometimes when you just randomly talk to certain people, they feel offended that you're looking down on them. That's the thing.
It depends on the approach. And so if I were supposed to do that, I'll size the person.
How would you start that conversation?
No, I am not. Even this conversation is not assuming that anybody you see on the street who may be a little behind you in terms of maybe wealth or opportunities and so on is the person you have to approach. For example, I drive around most of the time. There are times I see people walking and I can see from their demeanor that, look, these people are going through a lot.
Right.
And the other aspect would be the approach. I would let the person understand that, look, I have a conversation with you. I understand we all have our challenges. And this is what I have observed. I am offering this for you because it is not just about talking to the person. It is the little thing you want to do. It could be the woman who is sitting by the street using children to beg for money, and I see them around Shiashi all the time. I don't have that capacity, but imagine that somebody stops by any of these people and then you adopt them, not the children, you adopt the family and try to, in fact, influence that family to do something that will really end up person an income than to sit in the sun with the children, put these children in school. When they realize it and neighbors realize that you have made an impact on that life, the blessings that will follow will be far more than you go to church and then display or front your wealth by dumping so much or making pledges in that church. When you are driving past people around you and you don't care, and sometimes you snub them when they come closer to your car. That is what I'm really driving at.
But you see, I saw a very lengthy story on WhatsApp that they were sharing. The issue with that also is now it's become very difficult to identify people who really need help and people who are just trying to swindle you. You understand it? Because there are times when I've heard a lot of people say that I don't know if you actually need help or you just want to steal from me, so I can't help. And they just walk away.
It becomes a habit. And if collectively we decide that this is the project, it will make an impact.
All right,
I have the daily graphic
on our project. Yes, I have Times.
I have Daily Post.
I have the Chronicle.
Okay, then Business and Financial Times.
I have the Herald and I have the Inquisitor.
So you cheated me.
Not really.
Daily Graphic on its front page. The big story here says, indiscipline unabated, motorway without rules. And it comes with a taxi driver who was trying to make a U-turn on the motorway, and then other cars using the shoulders, including the tricycles, what they call, is it Mahama Kandu or Mahama Kambu? Those little tricycles people used to haul water. I think it's Kandu. Yes, I'll tell you why. Now, Daily Graphic, that's how it comes on the front page. We all know the motorway. I've seen effort by the Ghana Highway Authority or maybe the Urban Roads Department to block all those access routes. It's very, very dangerous. And that's what you can see on your screen, that taxi in there trying to make the U-turn. And then those tricycles, people have named Mahama Kandu, or they have, is it Abubuya? There are some names for them.
Yes.
All right.
Kukumbagia, I think.
Okay.
Pragia, yes.
Pragia and so on. Okay, the picture of the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, is also captured on the front page of the Daily Graphic. And the story attributed to his conversation or his message says, join forces to rebuild the economy. Ken Ofori-Atta, in fact, he has surfaced after the budget was read and the debate has started. Many people said, as I monitored conversations on several platforms, that this is a man who made the nation become worried because he issued a statement that he's sick, post-COVID-19 complications. He goes to the U.S. He'll come back possibly after a week to appear before the appointments committee. We don't hear about him. We don't know what the extension is saying. The state is not informed, or the public is not informed about his health status. And then the information comes that somebody, Baumia or Alan Chamantin, will read the budget. Then later it falls on Oseche Mensah Bonsu. Then rumors are that he's dead at the time the budget had been read. And then all of a sudden the man is speaking on, is it YouTube or using Zoom or whatever, and he's debating the budget, that people should come and talk about the budget. So the question is he really sick, or the suspicion that he was trying to run away from all the things that will come through the vetting process before his possible approval and so on. So the question is, again, why would these things happen to raise so much suspicion about government operations?
Well, to be honest, I don't want to comment about this at all.
Okay. Double track reintroduced to ensure social distancing. On page 20 of the Daily Graphic, you find the details. The back page says Ghana Heart Initiative donates medical equipment to 44 hospitals. The center spread is about a demand by the Ghana National Association of Teachers. The caption here says, NAT calls for investigations into source of unapproved textbooks. I'm done with graphic.
Okay, so I'm starting with the Ghanaian Times. The big story has to do with the Apam children who drowned in the Meet Me There. That I think the Chronicle wants to call it that, the Meet Me There incident, and they have been laid to rest. It says here 11 because one has already been buried. I think the water brought him to shore at a cemetery, and apparently you can't take the dead body from the cemetery to the house. So he was buried the very day that he was found. Now also it says here that no record of blood clots linked to COVID-19 vaccination, which is one of the myths that have been going around. Now 10 million euro e-waste management facility to be constructed in Accra. Also irate youth attack Queen Mother and other. This is quite sad because it was just last week I spoke to Godwin Ahiano, the PRO for the
Ashanti Regional
Police, yes. And one chief apparently who was kidnapped, but they intercepted on time. I think the same story had to do with the chieftaincy and fighting over the stool. And now there is another one. The Queen Mother is badly bruised, I think, yes, with cutlass. And so and
there was a related one at Discove in the Western region just 2 days ago, where a sub-chief was beaten to pulp and other people got injured, and no suspect has been picked up yet. So it's bad.
It's bad.
It's bad. They keep on coming, and sometimes it's over land. And just as I said, so when they fight and kill themselves for all these things, at the end of the day, how do we see the impact on the people on whose behalf these chiefs or these litigants? I think this is more
personal interest than even thinking about the community. Because if they are thinking about the community, they will not be setting this example.
It's unfortunate. Are you done with the Ghanaian Times newspaper?
No, because I have on the back page, it says here that Ghana, Japan signed $83,105 grant for Abrim Birase compound, the CHPS compound. Now also the Federation of Disability Organization demands policies responsive to the plight of disabled persons, which I think is very important.
Good news. The CHIPS compound, for example, is a good initiative for such a deprived community.
Yes.
And the other one targeting people with living with physical maybe disabilities, they call it physically challenged people, it's also good. Now the front page
let me just quickly say this. So this is on the page 10 of the Ghanaian Times. It says no doom so but expect intermittent power outages. This I think is just a nice way of telling us.
I have seen a timetable. You know, Gridco gave us a hint to expect sustained how do you call it, sustained power outages in the next few months. So yesterday I saw what Gridco describes as the first set of its timetable. It is starting from Thursday, 18th March 2021, and the affected areas are mostly in the Volta region for the first start. We have Ho, Tanyigbe, Keta, Adidoma, Angoga, Jasekan, Bodi, Amozofe. It goes on to Chito and surrounding areas. You go to Thursday, 18th same. It goes covers areas like Adaklu, have then Kwame Krum, Ayoma, up to the other areas. Then the southern part of the Volta region, Sogakofe through to Aziavi, and then on Friday, 19th March, it covers whole Tanyigbe, Keta, Adidoma area and goes back. So between tomorrow and Friday, we know that the so-called doomsday, we have decided to call it,
intermittent power outage.
No problem. Will take place around those parts of the Volta region. Maybe you can also look out for the timetable subsequently and share with your family or your businesses.
Just to see the intermittent power outage.
Can I go with the
yes,
next paper?
Yes.
Daily Post on its front page, Akufo-Addo on a grand agenda to distort Ghana's history. Edem Agbana is throwing the jab here. And then my life is in danger for my fight against corruption. Senyo Hosi, the chief executive of Seaboard, is making this allegation. And then we move on to the Business and Financial Times. The story here is saying a collective effort required to save economy from COVID-19 scourge. Oforiata, and then prioritize locally produced gas over imported LNG. Ghana Upstream Petroleum Chamber is making this passionate appeal. So there it is on the front page of your Business and Financial Times. The back page is talking about Emirates increasing flights to Accra and Abidjan. I'm done with my papers.
You are? Okay, then quickly, on the front page of the Chronicle, it says here, America embassy officers robbed in diplomatic enclave. Now, also, President Akufo-Addo has genuine intention for bringing back a Japa. This is coming from Mr. Razak Opoku. Now, he says this is also touching on the APAM victims that have been buried and the Queen Mother that has been brutally butchered. But there is something here I quickly want to say. The president has cut down on the parliamentary budget, and the speaker apparently isn't happy about that. It cuts down 119,846,911 Ghana cedi cuts down on the parliamentary budget.
Yeah, it's interesting. All these figures, many of us don't really understand them.
Yes.
But on this show today, the ranking member on the Finance Committee of Parliament, Kaisel Atoforsen, he is a former Deputy Finance Minister, MP for Ejumaku Enyan Esiem, will be on our program. So on our newspaper review segment, we'll have him one-on-one to look into the 2021 budget. A lot of issues have come up. How much is our debt portfolio? How much fiscal space do we have to borrow? What is the impact of COVID-19 on the economy? We are looking at 4 tax reliefs that government has introduced compared to 6 new taxes government is introducing. What is the state of the energy sector? And of course, there are several policies that have been repeated 2017, 2018, 2019. So at the time the economy was closing on December 31st, 2020, what really was the health? What government has reported, is it really factual? And based on what government is putting out as indicators, how is this going to influence the business community, the investment community? And of course, if government really can go out there and borrow more, what does it mean for you and I? Dr. Kaisel Atoforsen will join us, and then we'll look at some of these things and compare notes to what perhaps they did between 2012 and 2020.
Quickly, before we take our break, it says here on the front page of the Herald, Akufo-Addo lied about COVID-19 free water, electricity, and food. This is coming from Opon Nkrumah. And also, NPP flag bearer contest heating up already as Alan Chairman reveals campaign team, whereas police CID discredits 25,000 Ghana cedi bribery claim against Opuni. We'll take a quick break.
Business
yes
bits.
Now, speaking of business, quickly, if you are thinking of distributing water or starting your own business, come in here and we can talk about it for distribution of number 1 water in this house, X natural mineral water, or you can simply call 0596 273546 or 0596 273547. We'll be right back.
Business bits.
I agree. Try as much as possible to take screen time. I do that as soon as I feel discomfort in my eye. I take my eyes off. I put the phone somewhere because most of the time, most of the work we do is on our phone, and so we are constantly looking on the screen or even on the laptop. But try to stay away a bit. We are at the point where Wisdom Hedejome gives us details on some of the stories that we have discussed. Good morning, Wisdom.
Good morning, Abina.
How are you doing?
I'm very well. How are you too?
Not bad. What do you have for us today?
Well, so coming up this morning, La Traditional Council bears teeth against military and government over stolen land. NDC Council of Elders call for truce in latest attempt to tackle fighting concerns about possible leadership crisis. And CPP set up 4-member committee to investigate new textbooks shortaging and distorting Ghana's history development after recent outcry over bigotry comment against the Evers in that textbooks, and more controversy stoking from that, and mass burial for the 13 children who died in Apam have been done.
Take us away, Wisdom.
Many thanks for your company this morning. Begin the story here in Accra, and irate youth of La clashed nearly with officials of the Land Commission yesterday over a parcel of land behind the Bema camp here in Accra. Now, they are demanding the return of what they claim is the remaining of 250-acre parcel of land handed over to some top officials who they say are conniving with the military hierarchy to steal, despite several protests in recent times. They were led by chiefs and chief priestesses who invoked their ghost against any state actor.
This was
the starting point before the protest. The forecourt of the La Traditional Council to receive the blessing of their chiefs and opinion leaders before marching to the disputed land. The people of La have been fighting the military high command, who they suspect have connived with top government officials to steal land leased to the Ghana Armed Forces decades ago. The agitation have gone on for over a decade, but very little has been achieved, fueling anger among indigents, particularly the La Traditional Council and a group calling itself the Concerned Youth of La, who feel shortchanged. The renewed tension has been triggered by some development at the fenced area covering what they claim is a remaining 275-acre plot the architect want to illegally acquire in disguise. Their placard summarized their cry: military not bigger than government. Government owns land, not military. No la land, no peace. Guns don't rule. Military not above the law, among others. The brief protest around the Major Mahama roundabout was led by some traditional priests who invoked curses on the faceless officials twisting their arms with eggs and bottles of schnapps. This also includes the new military cemetery at Chado, the final resting place of the late UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, former President Jerry Rawlings, former Vice President Pakwesi Emisa Arthur, and several top civilians and military officials. One of the opinion leaders, Jeffrey Tete, who addressed the media, made a direct appeal to the president to intervene.
We are actually calling on the president that he should do the right thing, as he has made his minister to promise us then that he's going to release the land. The land should be released. Recently, just a couple of days ago on Friday, our chiefs came here to inspect the place. They granted interview to the media. Just this morning as we are coming, we have had information that the chiefs have been called, and so we don't know what they are going to be told. But we as the youth cannot sit down. Once our chiefs are fighting, we will be behind them fighting as well. That is why we are here this morning, and we are saying that anybody who has decided not to allow us, we have now invoked the gods to deal with the person. So whoever comes here to work will actually face the wrath of the gods of La. The 99 gods of La are going to fight for us, and the Almighty is also standing in for us.
The group later converged at the cantonment head office of the Land Commission, where the protest nearly degenerated into violence. Eventually, they had some respite. Minister for Land and Natural Resources, Samuel Abu Jinapo, who surfaced after an hour of waiting, pleaded for calm while government looks into the matter.
So just be patient, just exercise restraint and give us some time. If you have a petition, you can lodge the petition in my office and we will take a look at it. Ultimately, be rest assured that we'll be guided by fairness, integrity, and whatever we do will be in the interest of the country. So I thank you, and I call on you to exercise restraint. Everything will be fine. Just be patient. The Lands Commission will look into it. Just be very patient. You brought this matter to my attention for the first time, and I've just been informed about the situation. Give us some time. Through the Lands Commission, we will find an amicable, just solution to the issues involved. But I thank you so much, and tell the people of Lad that the President wishes them well. They should be patient. President Akufo-Addo and his Minister for Lands are determined to resolve the issues of land administration in Accra.
And we shall delve more into this program, this development later on this program. Let's turn attention to some politics now. And the Council of Elders of the National Democratic Congress, NDC, has stepped in to prevent crisis triggered by attacks on MPs over the approval of President Akufo-Addo's ministerial nominees. It met leadership of the Minority Caucus yesterday and has called for final truce.
Recent agitations and anger among the grassroots base of the NDC follows the disrespect MPs showed to the Functional Executive Committee, which issued directives on nominees before the Appointments Committee after their crunch meeting. The unanimous approvals after the initial suggestions that some of the appointees had been rejected triggered attacks and suspicions about possible monetary influence. This was taken a notch higher when the National Communications Officer, Sami Jemfi, issued a public statement slamming the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumana Bagbin, Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu, and the Chief Whip, Alhaji Muntaka Mubarak, for stabbing the NDC in the back. Though the National Executive Committee of the party has subsequently called for truce and the Minority Caucus has issued a public apology assuring the rank and file of the party, the crisis seems to be far from over. Contrary to NDC's expectations, the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, has disowned his own party, saying he is the Speaker for Ghana and cannot be manipulated. Boku Central MP, Mahama Ayariga, and others like Minority Chief Whip, Muntaka Mubarak, who recently on Adum TV has sent same signal that they are on their own.
Every member of Parliament swore an oath. Yes. To uphold the Constitution. And they be because I why are you saying this? Every member of Parliament mandate overruns his party. You know why we are. You represent not only the NDC people in your constituency, you represent Ujinama Obia or constituency. And you know, party is just one leg. And you know, the only people Bia from Bia or party a suggestion. The back ends with you as a member of Parliament.
Yes.
You swore an oath, your own conscience, your own values. Yes, as a whip, one of the responsibilities is to try and get everybody to appreciate party positions, and to be able to factor it. Decision be or be taken.
The Council of Elders of the party has stepped in. A statement issued yesterday after a crunch meeting with the minority leadership called on the rank and file of the party to cease fire and support the MPs to hold the Nana Akufo-Addo-led government accountable. The letter signed by the chairman, Alhaji Mahama Idrisu, said both the NDC leadership and the Minority Caucus collectively admitted mistakes and have resolved to uphold the principles and values of the party. The council said it is optimistic that this too shall pass.
Now, President Akufo-Addo has left Ghana on Tuesday, March 16, for Cote d'Ivoire as in his capacity as chairman of ECOWAS for the funeral of the late Ahmed Bakayoko, Prime Minister of Cote d'Ivoire, which will be held today, Wednesday, 17th of March 2021 in Abidjan, capital of Cote d'Ivoire. Now, an 8-day period of national mourning for the late Prime Minister was announced by President Alassane Ouattara last Thursday, with a burial schedule for Friday, March 19. Let's do some other stories relating to the controversial textbooks, because while government is yet to settle from the backlash over the controversial textbooks denigrating Evers and some tribes in the north, The Convention People's Party is also sharpening its knife. CPP has set up a 4-member committee to investigate what it believes is an agenda to malign Osajefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and distort Ghana's history. Now, the party, founded by Ghana's first president, is livid at how the new textbooks believed to have been approved by government for its new curricula for basic schools described the first president of the Republic of Ghana as a dictator. General Secretary of the CPP, Nana Ya and Champim Jantoa, who confirmed this, says the committee, among other things, has been tasked to meet with the publishers to ascertain how they develop their content. While no names were mentioned, the CPP General Secretary has said the committee will also meet the National Council for Curricula and Assessment, NACA, to establish their input and subject their concerns for the publication of the textbooks into an investigation. CPP believes there is a grand agenda to distort Ghana's history, bring division and destroy CPP after the current administration sought to change Founders' Day and the Republic Day. Now, fate saved a motorbike thief who should have been dead by now if the police had not rushed in. Now, the suspect is said to have lured the rider as a passenger and attacked him with pepper spray in the middle of his journey. He was, however, accosted and beaten to pulp. Viewer discretion is advised in the following report.
The suspect, believed to be in his late 20s, is believed to be a Nigerian. He's said to have boarded the cycle as an ordinary passenger only to attempt to rob the owner in the middle of the road. The man, who had been beaten to pulp by angry residents of Ewutu Breku, was left helpless with broken limbs and blood oozing from his nose and mouth after serious injury to the head and face. But for the timely intervention of the police, the suspect, whose legs were tied before the ordeal, would have been lynched. Narrating his escapade, the victim said the suspected thief attacked him with pepper spray and fled with his motorcycle. His scream as he tried to open his eyes drew attention to bystanders who later accosted the thief. Residents identified the suspect as a notorious robber known for stealing motorbikes within the Ewutu Breku Gomwa Akoti area. Some witnesses who spoke to our news team called for enhanced patrols to deter the criminals. The police did not make any arrest and is yet to make a public statement. Investigations are, however, underway.
Now let's stay a little longer in that central region because this time it's about a strange ring that is sacking the ring of a suspect blamed to be a Sakawa ring.
Or rituals for money is becoming notorious among the youth in most parts of the country. Sakawa is a Ghanaian term for illegal practices which combine modern internet-based fraud with African traditionalist rituals. This 19-year-old, whose identity cannot be disclosed, reported he stole a Sakawa ring, which is now stuck. Residents of Kaswa, Iron City in the Ewutu Senya East municipality of the Central Region, however, claim the ring is now sucking his blood. It is chopping the finger and cannot be removed. Witnesses, however, say the owner may have deliberately left it as a trap for the intended purpose, to suck blood of whoever wore it while he or she makes money. The victim's friend, Alex Donko, says they tried to reach the owner, who says the ring needs the fresh blood of a baby, else the victim will die.
See, and say, small boy, you know, opening a down for Kawa, and a down or Kofa Kawano, and or the share. Into the share in our area, and or the Kawana share in Sa, to the Kawana share in Sano, and or the Kodai, a Friday. Tiadiachi Saturday Anapa, or so ye Kawana. We kawana kawana into me. And almost also ya no mubu kawana half. Said a bear on between ye kawana freenings and to mubu yano. Anna half nakano, a mian and sano, a word dumpin, a cosi dumpiniso. Into ya they are untumini. And insanity, Tiboy no suano osu. Into me bedriana, made ever 2 ways says will be a frek awurano. Ama Mrs. Tano nene kasa was say. Just a munya kwala foforo emoja ansana omotume yikawa no efri ninsa.
The term or word Sakawa is an Hausa word which means putting inside. how to make money. In some cases, people who engage in that act kill, steal human body parts from the cemetery. Others swallow snakes, among other weird things.
Let's turn attention to Parliament now, because the House has begun debate on the 2021 budget. The House, which returned from a post-budget workshop held in Ho over the weekend, is expected to continue this week before the approval of the estimate for the various state sectors of the economy, departments and agencies. Earlier, Speaker of Parliament Alban Sumana Kingsford Babbing approved a request by ranking member on the Finance Committee Kesel Atoforsen for more time per MP, and yesterday's sitting continued late into the night. Information Minister opened the floor, and former Deputy Finance Minister Kesel Atoforsen served notice the minority will not support the budget if anomalies detected are not addressed. Meanwhile, the Finance Minister designate Ken Oforiatta, who is reportedly left the country for medical treatment, has surfaced. He's speaking to the media after the long silence and rumors about his death after the budget was presented last Friday. Now, private school owners are appealing to government to reconsider its decision on extra classes. There is more in this report.
Government cancelled extra classes charges and other fees following the implementation of the free SHS policy. The Ghana Education Service, which announced the cancellation in 2019, said it had not given any senior high school approval to organize extra classes for its students. According to the GES, that was an illegality for any school to organize extra classes without any communication or official authorization from them as the mother body. Meanwhile, the private senior high school owners say government must revisit its decision. Their call comes on the back of the recent WASSCE examination results released by WAEC. According to them, WASSCE performance can be better if extra classes is introduced to dedicate more time for extra studies. According to them, strict compliance of disciplinary measures must also be encouraged to enhance effective teaching and learning. Proprietor of the St. Andrews Senior High School at Asinfosu in the Central Region, Dr. Richard Esiedu, has since called on GES and the Ministry of Education to reintroduce same, which will in effect serve as motivation to the teachers.
In terms of extra classes, these two extra classes to cover their syllabus need extra tuition. When books, not all of them can buy textbooks, others can manage with the pamphlet. If we allow teachers to prepare pamphlet and give to the children, pamphlet for about 10 to 15 cities, but textbook.
Now, the bodies of 13 children who got drowned in Apam a day after Independence Day, who went reveling at the Apam beach, has been laid to rest. There is more in this report as well as people walked in to observe the solemn event.
Mourners from all walks of life poured in to witness the mass burial. Hundreds wept uncontrollably. It was an emotional scene as people from all walks of life, some from as far as Manford and adjoining fishing communities, poured in to witness the solemn event at the St. Luke Catholic Hospital in Apam. Government was fully represented by the Fisheries Minister, Hawa Kumsin, the DCE for the area, the police commander, and draped in black and white cloth with framed pictures of the 13 victims. The coffins were lined up for people to file past. The teenagers who lost their lives had sneaked to a nearby lagoon at the Palm Beach to have fun on March 7th, a day after Ghana's Independence Day. They were reportedly swept into the sea by a strong wave. Prior to the mass burial, special purification rites involving 1 cow, 3 sheep, 12 fowls, 33 tubers of yam, and 3 cartons of schnapp were offered to the gods by a traditional priest.
Prince Petra Yamiche International School.
They are under a lot of stress.
And that pretty does it for this morning's News in Brief. On the morning update with me, Wisdom Hedejeme. As always, do log on to myxyzonline.com for more. Nana Abena Sewa continues with morning update.
Thank you, Wisdom. Now, please don't forget to join the conversation via our WhatsApp number 0556 999 999. Please, WhatsApp, not text, not call. It interrupts the program when you call through it. So please send WhatsApp and we'll definitely read it out. We'll be right back with our social segment. Today, we will be talking to members of the LAP community with regards to their demonstration yesterday.
We are one man short. Should we invite him?
Yes.
It be old cargo. Can I join you guys?
Yeah.
Always drink fresh, natural, eggs, mineral, water.
Still got it.
Always keep hydrated naturally. That's my secret.
Manufactured with the primary aim of preserving nature's finest minerals necessary for a healthy mind and body. X Natural Mineral Water. Simply natural.
Welcome back to the morning update. This is TV XYZ. My name is Nana Abunasewa, and this program is proudly brought to you by X Natural Mineral Water, simply natural. Now we've gotten to the part, as I say always, where we talk about issues concerning you and I. Today, one of those issues happens to be with the demonstration that happened yesterday by the La community, the La Traditional Council, and a group calling itself the Concerned Youth of La. Why are they doing this? I want to give you a brief, but I have Derek in the studio. Derek is a royal from La, and he will give us insight into why the demonstration happened. And also, I have Oscar Ni Odoy Glover. He is the president coalition of La Association. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for coming.
Welcome. I defer to the president.
You defer to the president. Yes. Okay. So, Mr. Glover, I don't care why the demonstration yesterday. Forgive me, my guy is not up to 100% perfection.
Thank you, Animanga. Me feni mbonye to ebenene akeshin je chelewo. Ngo ene unu efie wo no le ebine e haje papa echelewo. Ni wo ba pe ye bi e. Nye wote plecho. Ni plecho e woni. Ni kenye ba akwe bia ne choe ni ji plecho e beje medon afu. Na afu gbe papa ne sana chono na ka fotu eje nche beje me. Sipo ni wo ke ha soja fo ye kwa ahun ke bata plecho. Jeme gbe fen je soja fo ya no ni. Won be wa me jeme fen moji yo jeme. Sha me fite moji ye fen. ni atashi wakame tashi shiabo wobo ni na efe mo na je ngmene e ba afi ake party ko e ba power e wo won fe ye party e be ami je ngmene wobo yin Kenya ba kai dani aba fe election 4 years ago jo mama be ami la meteshie ko ame bolo wa ye no no he wo fe na kan ni bia na hu e won mekohi ajaka won ni ne sheko wo ni jatuni wo cheme gbo na me hwia me lashi na me hwia me ha wo ni ne sheko no e wo woko e wo won hu kashi be ni won ni ne ba hye no e wo Kenya kwe ni bi ni te no fe e traka won bi na ka wo shikon ha wo November ni hu 27th akpe soja yemi lance yemi wo mancheme yemi ni amo akeshikon ba ha wo e wo mi hye wo he wo tesi ni wo da man here ni elo si wa akeshi wiemo ne kan jepo aja ka wiemo ne kan jekopo dan e wo ke amo aka wo shikon ba ha wo mi hye wo he ni wo dale shi ojogba shi 4th December ni sanata shi na kanini awo wolo no executive secretary ye lance ke hold on amomi dan e wa no kwale achi ato nyoji tension ne wonuko noko wonako noko woke wotanshi ni ka wokwe no ni soja fu e fi oye jeme e ba sebe ni anye aha wo shipon aja ka ye gan no ame grade jeme fe agbe na me ba jo mi ame grade jeme hu ame ka containers 23 e ba mamoshi nini ben ame to na ame fe ye jeme anye akawaya wo ame musu ewo Kenya ba ka ochi ani huwe waka wacheme ate jeme na ma akwe oni ya no bona fe nka watesie ameka eka fe no kotumo wonche atoa ewo waka amete ni nyehuwe Kenya ba na wote sinye le wote wa che wo woji ni yo jeme fe akasi wono etowo amehu ameba na ameba tun ameno ewo fio ni wo hiami jiene ewo no ni wote jeme ne wa che wo woji 99 me fe atishi na ameka wa ba nota.
I will do a quick into English rendition.
Oh, okay.
Basically, well, me, Odwe Glover is my cousin.
Okay.
He's also a royal, actually. His dad is the acting Akuchuche for the royal house. My dad is the current Jasiche, the head of the royal house. So we are cousins. We are from the royal lineage. But besides that, he was the MPP candidate in La Dadekotupon a few years ago. I have been in the NDC for as long as most people can remember. This is not partisan politics. We are born as Lame. We're not born as MPP or NDC people. If an NDC person or an MPP person steals my land, we don't benefit. We are united in this cause. And our chiefs are solidly leading us. Yesterday, we saw that the traditional priests and priestesses also are solidly behind the action. The youth, the whole township is united in this exercise. We have come a long way. And as you rightly pointed out, there have been several discussions with the military high command, with the lands ministry, the lands commission, in fact, government at all levels. And a pronouncement was made by government late last year, November 27th, that the land was going to be released. In fact, a delegation, including the chiefs, were sent to the land, and the portions that were supposed to be released were shown. In fact, some video went viral of a billboard thanking the president, Akufo-Addo, for releasing the land, and you saw the military pull it down. It's most unfortunate that the military is defying the commander-in-chief, but we think that it's about time that the military is brought, to order. We don't think that it's the entire military. There are few people hiding behind the name of the Ghana Armed Forces, which is a very disciplined institution, and they're trying to steal lands in the name of the military, which is so wrong. And we want to believe that the new minister, Abu Jinapo, yesterday was his first day at work. He was doing a courtesy call on the Lands Commission when we arrived. And together with the chief priest and so on, we were addressed by him. He's given the word of the government that
immediate action will be taken. We do not expect to write any new petitions. In fact, we will not write any new petitions. We will not restart the process. The process has come to a successful conclusion, and we expect that the president will make a definitive pronouncement that indeed I'm releasing the land. That's all we want to hear.
Right. Now, you did mention something about the military defiling the #1 gentleman of the country, which don't you think is a bit hypocritical, considering that the same #1 man in the country have stated that not more than 25 people should be at a gathering with regards to COVID-19, and yet we saw what happened yesterday, to a point where, I mean, people say it could have resulted in violence.
Well, you see, the lands, the La lands were fought for. In fact, when the La people arrived, and just for clarity, La lands extend from Peduasi through Adenta, Medina, Legon Airport, all the way to Nsawam area, Ajangote and all that. That's all our land. The prime lands are La lands. They were fought for. Blood was spilt. Our forefathers fought for these lands. In fact, there was no Osu, there was no Teshi. We shared boundaries with Nungwa and Gamashi. Osu was created out of us. Likewise, Teshi are actually La people. You understand? So if we have already lost people in the course of getting this land, we don't think that we dying for that cause is not worthwhile. Indeed, if you listen to the Yanari Assassini, and all that, the rendition of those tells you that Ghanaians must die for the land of Ghana. And we are Ghanaian because we are from La.
Right.
And we're ready to die.
Mostly we see things like this happening. We see the chiefs fighting for the land, etc., etc. And we also see that the youth, we see people rallying behind it, like what we saw yesterday. What are the benefits to the people when these lands are sold?
The idea of having land is not to sell, it's to utilize.
Right.
La has given most of its prime lands to the government or the state for purposes of development. The airport is on our land. In fact, every embassy in Ghana is on La land. Whether in cantonments, Laboni, airport, and so on. It's La land. That's the prime lands. Now, we believe that the University of Ghana and other institutions also have been placed on our lands for the benefit of all Ghanaians.
And they don't give money?
No, you see, some of these things were not given for the purpose of getting money. For example, we have Presec, Legon, etc., etc. We expect to get a quota. In fact, it's just common sense. We don't even have to ask for that.
And you get the quota.
Well, we don't really get what is our due. The trade fair, for example, we are not benefiting. It's been raised to the ground, and no new redevelopment has happened, so there's no new jobs coming. The president has promised us that the large general hospital will be rebuilt, and we are hoping that it will be done in record time, so that with COVID and other sicknesses, you refer to COVID, so that we can get good health care. Just yesterday, I was listening to the news. Somebody had died because the person was referred to police hospital. There was no bed. You heard that story?
Yes, I did.
If the large general hospital was there, the person would not have died. We are in serious hardship. The La community is being put in a small corner, yet we have vast lands. We should be able to expand. We cannot move from there and go and resettle in Adenta or cross over. The military has no business being there. In fact, modern militaries don't live in the center of cities.
Right.
The Burma camp should even be removed totally, not even just the armory. They have an armory with ammunition dump. If it goes off, you saw what happened in, Michelle camp. This time, when the ammunition that is there, buried underground, goes off, the killing zone will go as far as to the sea. It will reach here. It will reach the Flagstaff House. It will reach the airport. Many people will die. Do we want to wait for such a day? The military has no business using that armory and dump as a pretext to steal land. They should move it and even move the entire camp. They were just given a small land that was for a Gifford air base, just for landing, just during the colonial times, just small, 23 acres. How come 23 acres has now become thousands of acres? Those lands were not acquired. They proposed to acquire them. If I want to marry you, and I make a proposal to you, until you accept, are you my wife? The military have proposed to have the land. The land has not been given to them. Is it their land? It is not theirs. So on what basis do you use arms that we paid for, uniforms that we have paid for to fight us? And we want the defense minister, who is still the defense minister, who we had meetings with the high command, to call the military to order. If he can't, he should just resign, or the president should sack him. Look, it's about time that the president takes decisive action. He is the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces. The army cannot defy the president. That is not just mutiny, it is a coup. And we must begin to see things for what they are. Who in the military can look the president and say, I will not do what the president has said? That person should come forward. It should be made public so that Ghanaians will determine whether that person should still wear the uniform or not.
Mr. Offer, me know you can ya court.
Oh, nyami. Court oche court sane le what if na kan. Wo hu he. Ko ba ka be na ndisi your power attorney general ke soldier fo ya keshi. Ameke wo mancheme abatashi. Kuna wie shikon he. Iwo ba na ke wo hu court. Shi bi ane heni wo she heni soldier foye wo mancheme ke meni ko Ghana shipon fe no watashi awie wonu wo heshishi ana shipon che na ana moni eba ta shipon no ni je shipon che ni no ni brofo ba ke tenant eba high shipon na agbenet mo bo ni habo heko ibie shi akashi ona akashi pon kashi ebie shipon kashi ebie ogbe lo fiji ami Kenya ona ni bia na wo hu wo ma wo yinfa tumobo ni nyami awie e wo sani wo gbele wo ma mi ko pe wo ni leju ogbe cantonment echi wo gbe trade fair hu eko wo ye bie soldier fo ye eko wo e wo bia na sani wa boten show mi wo ke soldier fo ya se ni wo ke ha ko ame ameka ya jeme kura amesije ma me ha wo koni wo gbele wo ma mi nke ba je megbe ona koni wo ma bi ana heko na me ka me ichu afun won pa me fai won pa mo nu pa fai won pa mo fi mo ni na mi fai akesi sipo wo no ni bi afa ga no he bale na kan si he ye akesi won pele sipo he ye wo ko igbe e ba ye ga ni akesi mo fi mo nsumo ne ba hinga nefe manwulu emi ewo won pe mo fi amo si hu make my akadumo soja amra lo ehi e ke fe noko ni egba wona e ha no ni blofo chole komefe wo chole komefe mo unity aba wotin bi aneko na fe tumo ni la me ke soja fo ye na o ke soja na ko wo ke fi o ani wo ke ha me amehino
okay
koni no dey share asian hawo ni wo man biye aya hejeme.
Okay, we understand that. He did say that the little you have given out, we should stick to that and stop spreading.
Yeah. You're doing well in the ground now.
Yes, I am, because
we'll give you a plot.
No, I know based on the news items that I saw, you did mention that in after a week or by a week, if nothing has been done about it, what are you going to do?
Well, first, the Traditional Council last week, Friday, when they went to the land, indicated that they are not giving the government an ultimatum. They want the president to act immediately. In fact, the president is aware. It will be strange that the president is not aware of all that has happened. He's the chairman of the National Security. National Security is aware. We've met with the MCE. The regional minister is aware. His lance minister is aware. His defense minister is aware. The president cannot say he's not aware. So we want immediate action. However, after we went with the traditional priests and so on, they believe that sometime next week, early next week, if they haven't heard anything, they just invoke the 99, a fraction of the 99 gods of La. The rest will happen, and God, the Almighty, being the 100th person, would also add His voice. I think that we'll see the end of this. It wouldn't have to get to that.
Right. We hope so that it doesn't get to that. Thank you for coming. So I'm going you are done. All right. Now I have been talking to two very important gentlemen from the La community. I had Oscar Ni Odoi Glover, who is the president, Coalition of La Associations, and also Prince Derek Ajay, a royal from La, speaking with regards to their lands, which have been taken over by the military. We'll be back with our newspaper review.
Peace of mind is very essential in your journey to success. For our Kwesi Papa, Peace of mind means having a proper covering over his family. Literally. For Araba, aka Injection Mama, it's about having the funds to complete her advanced nursing course. And as for Corporal Odami, it's as simple as reporting on time for his shifts. Sometimes all you need is a simple push. At Needs Microfinance, we have tailor-made loan packages for salaried workers under the Controller General's Department. With the low interest rate and quick wahala-free process, you are guaranteed of a timely solution to get back that peace of mind, literally in 30 minutes. Needs Microfinance. Growing with you. The average human body mass should have at least 60% water for optimal performance in any physical or mental exercise. We can help you maintain it naturally. X Natural Mineral Water. Simply natural.
Ifo kra na menyisika edia ye mefui.
Ehinfa pa na menya bosia edia tre medjuma yimu.
Kai kra mabre miye bosia ato taxi fufu. Suhum Rural Bank.
Suhum Rural Bank.
Yemamwa kwa baba Suhum Rural Bank. Ye won hyehyɛ ahodo bi te sɛ dwadifo abosia, ekokro bosia, susu account, eni daso wo ho savings account, me bada chain savings account, ene de keka ho. Suhum Rural Bank was 03422919896. Na won so wetumi aka sɛ
Suhum Rural Bank ama ene mayeka una.
Suhum Rural Bank enti me pa minie.
Suhum Rural Bank, growing our heritage.
Welcome to Auto Check Vehicle Diagnostic and Licensing Center.
I hear my car can be checked here without going to so many hour crap.
Sure.
Check, auto checks, check, auto checks, check.
Emission, check.
Check, auto checks.
Alignment, check.
Auto checks, check, auto checks.
Brakes, check. Visit Auto Checks at Koforidua Aquadum Road for the roadworthiness of your vehicle, from saloon cars to heavy-duty industrial vehicles. Madam, your car is now ready for the road.
Thank you so much.
Auto checks.
Auto checks. Check.
Auto Checks. Your safety, our priority.
Check. Auto checks.
Welcome back. This is TV XYZ. This is Wezo TV. And the program is Morning Update. You know, every day of the week, Monday to Friday to be specific, 6:30 to 9 o'clock is when we bring you this program. And this program obviously looks at a lot of things happening around the country. Today, newspaper review, we have a very important personality. He makes a lot of influence in Parliament. His argument, according to him, is in the interest of the larger public. As a former Deputy Finance Minister, Dr. Kaisel Atoforsen is also the ranking member on the Finance Committee of Parliament. He is also representing the people of Ejumako, Enyan, Esiem. And today, we want to hear from him what really he understands from the 2021 budget what lies in there for the way forward and the concerns that government should definitely address. You'd recall that before the 2020 elections, there was a lot of debate over the actual strength of the economy, how much we are borrowing, the potential impact of COVID, and of course, what government is spending, whether it is for consumption or for what those in the sector would describe as investment, government's own expenditure, and how we will survive on the way we would live off as far as December 31st, 2020 is concerned, and then how we gradually recover from the challenges or the shocks and look at the way forward. In all what I've said, what does it mean? That's what Kaisel Atofoxen, now he's a doctor. Doctor of finance is not an easy feat. Doc, you are welcome.
Thank you.
I've heard a lot of arguments from the day the budget was read, when you sought for more time, which was granted yesterday by the speaker, and for which reason you closed around 9 o'clock, is it? And your debate has started. How has it been after coming from Ho?
Yes, thank you very much. And let me say that, yes, the debate started yesterday. In fact, we took off the debate starting with the financial sector, economy issue, agriculture, and that of trade and industry. You know, the three of them relate. That is the core economy, the economy of the country. And I had the privilege to start from our side. And we've made our case very strong. You could see that the administration intends to cover up their mess and blame it on coronavirus pandemic. Sadly, that is not the case. This administration started messing up back in 2018. Unfortunately, after raising all of this argument in the past, since 2018, both Parliament as an institution and that of the public did not buy into it. It was later in 2019 that we saw that people are trying to adjust and to see the true situation of the economy, but that was too late in 2020. Today we find ourselves with a situation that if care is not taken, Ghana may default in paying a debt. And Eric, let me be very blunt here. The reason why we are where we are today is as a result of government misreporting and cooking economic data. That is why we are where we are. Simply put, if you are to ask anybody, what is fiscal deficit? It is simple because it is the revenue that you collect and the expenditure that you spend, the difference between the two. If the expenditure is more than the revenue, it's deficit. If the revenue is more than the expenditure, you have surpluses. That's all what everyone knows about fiscal deficit. And then if you decide to finance your deficit from debt, that adds to your public debt. So there are two major ways of financing your deficit. One, through additional borrowing, and two, through selling of assets. Okay, so if you sell your existing asset in the form of divestiture, you can use it to finance your deficit. But you see, we have not sold assets, but we've been borrowing. So all of this must reflect in the public debt. You require that we left office with public debt of 120.3 billion Ghana cedis. As of 2017 January, that was the numbers. In fact, at the end of 2017, the public debt jumped to 142.5 billion Ghana cedis. And then the problem started in the year 2018 when government claims that they have run a deficit of 11.6 billion. But in the end, it wasn't 11.6 billion. Apparently, the true deficit was 21.4 billion Ghana cedis. Simply put, they have hidden about 9.8 billion Ghana cedis from Ghana's data. Hidden. Nobody can find it. But you see, I've always said that, Eric.
Was it not at that stage that there was a conversation about whether the debt added on from the banking sector cleanup.
Correct.
I would really fall within that space.
Exactly. But you see, the reality is that you can decide not to add it to the fiscal deficit, but the public debt will certainly give you up. You see, if you do engineering and treat it the way you want it, so that you want to paint a picture that you are doing well, but whilst you are not really doing well, because all of them will go into the debt. They go, instead of paying contractors, they have decided to go to Fidelity Bank and do factoring.
We will go into the details, but
all of this has compounded the problem going
for the
forward.
benefit of those who are joining this conversation, I want to go through some highlights of the budget. First of all, I want to give the picture of the overview of the economy as published in the 2021 budget. It talks about overall real GDP growth of 0.9%, overall non-oil real GDP growth of 1.6%. Then the end of period for the year-on-year inflation was about 11%. Now you'll be seeing some of these figures shown on the TV set. They'll stay on the screen a little, but it's not really going to correlate to how I'm reading. But at least as you read and then you listen to me, you appreciate how government is putting the figures across. Now, end period December stock of gross international reserve to cover at least 4.0 months of imports of goods and services. This was the projection that was made. Now, as of December 2020, data for the first 3 quarters of 2020 shows an overall real GDP growth rate of 0.2%, and government blames this largely on COVID. 2020 GDP growth outlook is projected to be 0.9%, and all these projections have been mentioned in the summary or the highlights of the budget. Now, the real sector performance, it says average overall real GDP growth for the first 3 quarters of 2020 was 0.2% compared to 6.0% for the same period in 2019. So you can see the vast correlation in terms of 0.2% as of the end of the third quarter and 6.0% at the end of the same period in 2019. Then the drastic slowdown again, government blames on COVID. Now, in the 2020 budget, government has cut or there has been tax reliefs, 4 main tax reliefs, or I would say tax waivers in one way or the other. One is the quarterly vehicle income tax, but government is saying that it is going to take effect during the 3rd and 4th quarters of the year as for operators of commercial transport. Then tax rebate for 30% of income tax due to companies in hotels and restaurant, education, art, and so on. And this one is supposed to take effect from the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th quarters of 2021. Now, extension of waivers of interest on accumulated tax arrears as an inventive way to pay off, although to be eligible for first quarter tax obligations, and so on. Now, what are the 6 new taxes that have been introduced? We have tax on betting and gaming, which I know Case Latufosen is not supportive of. COVID-19 health levy of 1% on VAT, flat rate scheme, and a 1% on national health insurance levy. Energy sector recovery levy of 20 pesos per litre on fuel. Then we have review of road tolls. That one is supposed to be announced. Sanitation and pollution levy, and financial sector cleanup levy. And so Atufosun was talking about the public debt, and we understand from this budget that it represents 76.1% of GDP. I'll leave the summary as such. Now, with all these figures, government is indicating in there that while some of the projections really were lost, it is because of COVID. And so when you go after them for messing up the economy, you are not being fair as far as where they left off at the end of December 2020 was.
Thank you very much. Let me say that government cannot blame COVID as such. Yes, coronavirus disease or the pandemic has some impact on the economy, but the impact is can largely be found in certain sectors of the economy. For instance, you can see the pandemic having a major impact on agriculture. It has some impact on the tourism industry because people are not coming that much, and people are not going that much. On the airline industry, travel and tours, hotel industry. I mean, That is the industry that has
What
been
about
hit.
manufacturing? Because there were a lot of layoffs or working from home, so productivity levels wouldn't have been the same.
It depends on the areas you are talking about, because it doesn't cut across. And evidence from the GDP growth shows that it doesn't cut across. There are some areas that you can see that clearly that is happening. But let me be blunt here. If you look at the GDP growth in nominal terms as projected, the government projected that the economy is going to, at the end of 2020, the economy was going to be 398 billion. And this is something that the government projected before COVID. The R10, as the budget has indicated, is 383 billion. So if you look at it, the deviation is about 3.7%. That tells you that the pandemic has not had severe impact on the economy from the governmental level, macro level. However, the same government is telling us that they spent about 2.1% of GDP on the pandemic. So if you have spent 2.1% of GDP on the pandemic, approximately 13 billion Ghana cedis, you will notice that the fiscal deficit as projected was 6.4, but we ended up having 17.5% of GDP. That's the true fiscal deficit. They've hidden the numbers. 17.5% of GDP.
How did you arrive at those figures? Because obviously they have.
Okay, so let me tell you how I arrive at it.
Okay.
In the budget statement, they said that the deficit was 44.9 billion in nominal terms. If you express this as a percentage to GDP, it's 11.7% of GDP. However, they failed to recognize the payment they made to the financial sector, which is 8 billion. In fact, they hid it from us. Again, they made some energy sector payment. The subsidies that President Akufo-Addo promised and all of, they paid. And they paid about 6.2 billion Ghana cedis. This 6.2 billion and 8 billion are all excluded from the expenditure. So if you are to add it, the expenditure has gotten to 59.1 billion Ghana cedis. If you are to express this 59.1 billion Ghana cedis as a percentage of Ghana's GDP of 383 billion, you notice that it is about 15.3% of GDP. Again, you will notice that in the same budget, if you check appendix, I think 3B, the accumulated arrests of about 8.2 billion Ghana cedis, and you add the arrest to it, that will give you 17.5 billion Ghana cedis. Yesterday, I challenged them in Parliament, and nobody could say something to the contrary. So more or less, they've accepted it. It's 17.5 billion Ghana, 17.5% of GDP. This is the highest fiscal deficit of all times in the history of Ghana. No government has come to office and have overspent so much.
I keep hearing the minority group saying that the figures quoted by the finance ministry are cooked, or they don't represent the reality on the ground. There are statistics to back the argument. But in real terms, how would a hidden figure and real macroeconomic data affect how the economic, that's the engine that should run the economy, operate?
Eric, I think you've asked a very relevant question. This is relevant in the sense that anytime you create a false impression that you are doing well, it's like you are tickling yourself and smile, laugh. So you create wrong impression that you are doing well. So in the minds of the politician, I'm doing well, so I can continue misbehaving, and so they misbehave. They are not actually tracking the part, the fiscal part, through the financing and public debt accumulation. That is why all of a sudden, Ghanaians wake up one day and we've seen our debt getting to a level that we are all screaming about. Because we were not warned. We did not see. Civil society organizations were having the impression that the government is doing well. I kept saying, please don't just look at the fiscal deficit as published by government. Because that is not the true situation. They are hiding numbers. And we've started saying this since 2018. Eric, you have been around for a while, but have you, throughout your journalism career, have you heard anyone complaining that one particular government has been cooking numbers? It's only through this administration that we've seen it. It never happened under president.
But what makes it a bit funny is that countries do not run their economy as standalones.
Correct.
Because they correlate with the sub-region or what other players have to say about them. So you have rating agencies, Fitch, you have Moody's, you have at the Standard & Poor's, you have IMF, you have the World Bank. All these institutions obviously have an interest and have a say to reflect the reality on the ground. And I don't get the impression that most of them really talk about the issues you have raised.
They do. They won't come to public and then obviously make this argument just like I'm saying. But the Fund, the World Bank, the major authorities, the bilateral and multilateral institutions, EU, all of them, they are making a firm case to the Ministry of Finance that this situation must change. The narrative must change. I can confirm to you that if you were to look at the IMF Article 4, the staff report in April 2020, that was sent to the fund for us to have 1 billion Ghana cedis. They've made all this adjustment, confirming our position. So if you look at page 3 of that document, they have said that the fiscal deficit from 2018, as published by government, is not the true situation.
2008?
Yeah, 2018. Because 2018, government published 4.8% of fiscal deficit. Now, the IMF is saying it is 7%. In 2019, the government published 3.9%. The IMF saying, no, it is not true. It's 7.5% of GDP. The year 2020, today they are publishing 11.7%. They will come back and tell us the situation is 17.5%. Mother of all fiscal deficit. But I have not seen anything like this in my life.
So the conversation for now has been on fiscal deficit and the likely impact on the economy going forward.
Yes.
Now, let's break it down to what the average Ghanaian is likely to feel when the policies in there are being implemented or perhaps doesn't really work to our interest. So we have the financial sector cleanup. Government has made some payments. In your submission, you make us believe that the figures actually that were reported to the public didn't come the way it should have been to reflect on the bigger picture. What government is proposing to do now, how is that likely to impact positively or negatively on how that sector operates?
In terms of taxes?
Taxes, i.e. to support the cleanup exercise.
Okay. Let me come in. The government proposed a good number of taxes. The first one had to do with imposition of 5% tax on the financial sector. So my first argument is that already the financial sector is going to pay 5% additional tax. Remember that the financial sector, as we speak, unlike any other sector, they are paying 30% tax. In the sense that apart from the 25% corporate income tax that they pay, they are paying 5% national fiscal stabilization levy. Today, they are saying they are going to add another 5% to the financial sector. So that will bring it to about 35%. Investors, like any other business people or entrepreneur, will certainly have a bottom line that they want to look at. So if I go and borrow money from somewhere and I want to invest, or if I have money somewhere and I want to invest, I want to look at my rate of return. So your rate of return, for instance, you are assuming you're going to have 10%. If you go to a sector that the government is going to take so much from you, it is going to distort your investment decision. You may move from that sector to another sector. That is what it is. Now, the difficulty I have here is that the financial sector is just about to be bubbly, to do well. In the middle that the sector is about to be bubbly, this administration is pushing more taxes. This will not attract investment to the sector. It will not attract investment to the sector because I'm a businessman, I have capital, and I want to move my capital to the financial sector. I will move it to a sector that attracts so much tax because there are other sectors that are paying 25% tax. So why don't I go to 25% tax, and if they are making similar rate of return, and I go to 25% tax, then it means a lot more money will come to me.
Regardless of whether it's after profit or before profit.
No, but it's whether it's after profit, because it's going to reduce the bottom line. It's going to reduce the bottom line because taxes, obviously, after your profit, Because before you impose your taxes.
Is it not a necessary evil? Because in one breath, we are saying that government has borrowed so much, our debt to GDP ratio is high, and the potential of paying back even interest on loans, this is about 40% plus, if I'm right.
Yeah.
Now, if all these things are happening, and the space left for government, that fiscal space left for government to even go in for more, is a bit shaky. Why won't any government want to sustain an economy by looking at revenue generation?
Eric, you'll be faced with two situations. One, taxing the people, and two, if you are not careful and you tax, it will distort investment decision, and investment is not going to go to that sector. And if you are not careful, that sector is going to go down. Employment will not be generated. In the long run, you are not going to get more revenue. That's an option you face. And that is why in designing a tax policy, you should be careful. You don't just slap taxes because your intuitions think that this is where you slap taxes. Or you don't impose taxes out of emotions. You don't do that. You have to do proper assessment where you want to impose your taxes. Honestly speaking, the tax that they are levying on the financial sector is going to be distortionary. It is going to create deadweight cost. It's going to be very inefficient in the economy, and it's not going to help all of us. And that is why we've cautioned that this isn't the time for us to impose tax on the financial sector. In fact, not only the financial sector, but the entire economy. In the sense that, Eric, if you look carefully, the pandemic has affected just the small, medium enterprises and small companies, those small companies, and the informal sector. So banks that had lent money to some of these institutions going forward will be seeing non-performing loans. Because some of them have gone for loans from these banks and they've used it for their business. The pandemic situation has affected the business, and so business is not doing well. If businesses are not doing well and they have debt to pay, they cannot pay the debt. So it's going to affect the banks. At the time that the banks, this is going to hit them from next year going or from this year, because they have very strict accounting rules. You have to write off. Write-off rules are very strict. They're using IFRS. So if care is not taken, these banks are going to go down. At the back of some of these taxes, again, going to be delivered to them. And investors are not going to be very enthused in investing in that sector. And that is why I'm worried.
How differently? Because as ranking member on the Finance Committee of Parliament, I can assume that when you look at your party, NDC, and you want to look at those who really form part of the economic management team, you may not be left out, or you actually won't be left out because of your role then as former Deputy Finance Minister. Now, if the NDC had been declared winner of the 2020 elections, you may have proffered alternatives vis-a-vis where we would have left off in 2020 because you then have access to the real figures. How differently would you have managed taxes from what the MPP has talked about in the 2021? A tax on betting, COVID levy, NHIL levy, energy sector 20% plus, review of road tolls, sanitation and pollution levy, financial sector cleanup.
Eric, I wouldn't have imposed a baller tax. Not at all. I wouldn't have imposed a cha-cha tax. There's no reason why I should increase VAT that will burden the people in the middle of a pandemic. I wouldn't do that.
Why?
I wouldn't do that. I will not impose a tax that seeks to take money from the informal sector. The VAT flat rate, increase it from 3% to 4%. I wouldn't do that. I'll tell you what I would have done.
Okay.
I'll tell you what I've done.
Okay.
Simple. You know, we have exemptions to the tune of about 3% of GDP. This government, after listening to us and the IMF, had come to Parliament with a bill back in 2019 to rain down exemptions. The bill is in Parliament as we speak. They have no interest in pushing it. If that bill had gone through and government had implemented the exemptions bill alone, would have had enough revenue, more than what the taxes that they have imposed.
What interest is in there if obviously that's a very soft platform for government to get approved through Parliament?
Because, well, it's up to them to explain to us why. Because if government really want that bill to go through, it could have gone through within 2 days.
We'll continue the conversation, but at this stage, some of your colleagues have been speaking. Ejapa Mensah has a strongly different opinion from some of the positions you've held. I've spoken to Atachia, who has also justified why there's perhaps the need for taxes. And then I think Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah is also trending on social media. At this stage, I want us to listen to what Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah believes should be the way forward. And then we'll also listen to Atachia after he has spoken. And I'll come back to you to speak to some of the justification they have put across.
Thank you.
The fiscal impact of COVID, about 19 billion cedis to respond to COVID. And we did not necessarily charge the Ghanaian for it. We had to borrow. We had to take money from the Bank of Ghana to deal with the COVID pandemic. That's why today articles are being published around the world commending Ghana as one of the best response countries. But that 19 billion cedis has to be paid for at some point. The liabilities we have incurred has to be paid for. COVID expenses are going to be with us at least for the medium term.
Does the 19 billion include the free water and electricity you gave?
It does. It's part of COVID-related expenses.
No, but you gave us that one hand and you're taking it back the other hand.
No, we were in the midst of a crisis and government had to front load.
You said it was free.
But it's free to you. It wasn't free to the treasury. It wasn't free to the treasury.
I'm lost here.
No, so when we say free electricity, it doesn't mean that the IPP producer is also going to say, because the president has said free electricity, I won't charge the country for it.
The government will have to pay.
The government will have to pay.
Yeah, but I'm saying that you are now in 2021.
Yes.
You now want us to pay for it.
I'm saying the government, for example, had to borrow money, the fiscal impact about 19 billion, to make all of those expenses happen. In addition to that, there are going to be expenses in the medium term because of COVID. The government is asking a question. Can we continue to accommodate this COVID black hole in this already widening gap of our finances? Or do we have to introduce a revenue handle that can take care of it? And the government comes to a view that, with the greatest of respect, can we take 1% VAT to pay for that, so that COVID does not become an ever-burdening expenditure item for us?
Yeah, but you made a choice to give us free water and electricity. You've extended it, and it served you well in the politics of the day.
Because government
won the election.
Because governments make
only
choices.
down to come and tell us to pay for it.
No, because governments make choices on behalf of their people. If we are at war, and the government has to make a decision that we have to procure A, B, C, D, E, F, G to go to war and win that war, and does not necessarily tax the population for it today, and mobilizes for us.
But the free was populist then.
I'm coming to mobilize and come together and achieve it. It is well in order for the government, when we have won the war, or we are on a clear path to winning the war, to say this has been the cost.
So it wasn't free then?
It was free to the people of Ghana at the time.
But now we are paying for it.
Treasury. We have to now begin to close.
You just delayed the payment, so it wasn't free. You should have told us that.
Well, no, because
down the line you pay for this.
No, because.
So you heard Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah and Evans Mensah. In fact, Dr. Kaisel Atoforson was on that program. I brought this up specifically because I would have asked the same question, and because Kojo is providing a response to a platform on which he sat. Now, Kojo's argument sounds a bit convincing. In fact, I spoke to Atachia, who shared a similar concern. I want us to listen to him, and then I'll come back to you to speak to all the issues Kojo has raised here.
I can tell you that this amnesia, this pathetic blindness is sad. Even in the United States of America, the consequences of the COVID disaster is obvious. Biden is secured $1 trillion plus to what? Resuscitate an economy that was otherwise doing well. The rest of the things that we have enjoyed so far, free water, electricity, and that nobody who was taking his livelihood from the national employment suffered. No layoffs in public employment. It should tell you the competence of President Akufo-Addo, and I have confidence in God that he's going to turn around the economy. But 100 districts who will be entitled to hospitals and the rest of it. That is evidence of competence.
What about taxes?
Are we not going to have free water and free electricity? So what is the citizens' contribution to the crisis? That is a little irritation you need to bear. There's no nation in which the citizens do not bear part of the responsibility.
But your opponent suggests that the free electricity and free water is only piling debt and not really paying these utility companies.
It's giving relief to the ordinary people. It's giving relief to the entire nation because the economy contracted. World economies contracted because of the COVID. You can't wish this away. So how do you give relief? For you to be angry that you are drinking free water is one understanding that I don't have.
So that is Samuel Atachia. And Kesel, you've listened to both of them, and in as much as they defend where we are, they are also suggesting that, look, it's a necessary evil.
Evans, listen to Eric, listening to Atachia first. He made an argument that President Biden, for instance, has secured some money from Congress and is spending. That he has indeed secured money. He has not imposed taxes. He's gone to Congress and asked Congress to give him the power to spend, to benefit the people in the middle of the pandemic. In the case of Ghana, we are imposing taxes in the middle of the pandemic. At the time that the second wave is not over, nobody knows what is going to happen. At the time that they are claiming COVID has affected the business community so much, public has affected so much, as long as our way of doing things are concerned. And even the reality is simple. Eric, the truth is that the imposition of the VAT, 1% VAT, the imposition of the VAT flat rate, 1% extra, will simply mean that prices of goods and services are going to go up. So to you, what is going to happen as long as Parliament approves this will be that things you used to buy for 1 cedi is going to go up. It's going to go up. In fact, as a result of them imposing 10 pesos for the purposes of boiler tax, and then another 20 pesos for the purposes of energy sector payment, so 30 pesos increase on fuel prices anytime you buy diesel and petrol, will also mean government is taking money from you. And that is why I disagreed with Kojo Ponkroma trying to liken the situation to war, and therefore he was trying to create impression that in a war situation, government will have to take money from the people. You don't impose taxes in the middle of war. Nobody does that. You should show one country. In this
case, even though he likens it to war, it is a bread and butter issue. Government machinery must be seen to be operating.
I see.
Waste management must be a core part of government's activity. And so if government will not get the money anywhere, and so they are using this innovative way to raise income,
Eric,
it's not really going to
Eric, you know what is happening.
The main agenda.
You know what is happening. The government spent so much money for the purposes of the 2020 elections.
And they claim
they overspent.
Justification for
no, there's no justification for it. COVID expenditure is only 2.1% of GDP. You have spent 17.5% of GDP in excess of your revenue. 17.5% of GDP. Discount that. Took it from the traditional deficit as projected of 6.4. So it means in the period, government has not been able to account for a fiscal deficit in excess of 7%.
Is it that consumption
7%.
is more than investment in terms of expenditure?
It is that the government is engaging in reckless expenditure.
When you say
that is
what
what
does
it is.
Mean?
Reckless expenditure. Because look, some of the expenditure items, we are going to go through the what do you call it, the estimate.
The breakdown of the estimate.
And it will surprise you with some of the things that will come out.
Now, if you say reckless, for example, can you break it down? Because if a government so decides that because of COVID, there should be relief packages, and as part of that, I'm absorbing costs
it is
in
reckless.
energy and water sector, i.e. power.
Put that aside. It is reckless.
Reckless.
It is reckless when a government within 9 months in office, 9 months in 2019, government of Ghana, the cost of travel alone is about $12 million. It is reckless when government the president of Ghana decide to rent private jet to places that he shouldn't rent private jet to. It is reckless. It is reckless when office of the president is spending so much money and failing to account for it. It is reckless when the government of Ghana decide to have ministers more than any other country in the world and pay them money. That is reckless.
So that was 2020.
Yes.
Now, while we have the conversation, we have the budget estimates for 2020 and 2021. They'll pop up on the screen. But you would have realized that some of the figures we saw in 2020 have really been slashed compared to 2021. Is it not an adjustment to the reality today, and for which reason government is cutting its own coat according to size?
Eric.
And so they need your support to drive the new taxes, for example, and others to move us to where we want to be.
They cannot brush the situation under the carpet. First of all, they have to admit the economic mess that they've put the country into. That's the first basis.
That admission has been
They have not.
to COVID.
They have not admitted it, because the situation was bad pre-COVID. COVID has elevated it a bit, but you cannot blame the situation on COVID. For them, it's an alibi. They are trying to hide behind COVID so the Ghanaians will not see the true situation. But the mess, as I said, started in the year 2018. Ghanaians did not pay attention. All of us, Parliament in particular, we had the power to have stopped these people. We did not pay attention, including myself. Even though we raised the issues, we ignored it. In the year 2019, the situation got bad. Civil society organizations felt that the country was doing well because they've painted wonderful pictures. Pictures that claim that fiscal deficit is coming down. They are consolidating. I've never seen a country that claims they are doing an effective fiscal consolidation, yet debt levels increases. Nowhere else in the world. And that's why I said that any effective fiscal consolidation will always and everywhere lead to a sustainable public debt accumulation. But unfortunately, in the case of Ghana, that is not the case. The situation we find ourselves in, first of all, the government of Ghana must accept. Second, after accepting, apologize to us. Third, what is important is even the adjustment they claim they are doing now is not enough. They have to do a better adjustment on the back of the expenditure. Expenditure levels are going up. If you look at the budget estimate, they are spending money left, right, and center. Government communication, for instance, by communicating only their flagship project, 4 million Ghana cedis.
It was 6 million in 2020. So 2 million is significant enough if you want to strike the percentages. That's about a third.
Really? Even, Eric, what at all are they going to do for it to cost 4 million? After government of Ghana has all of these communication tools at its disposal. GBC, whatever we have, government of Ghana.
Yesterday, when you were debating the budget on the floor of Parliament, you made reference to anomalies and threatened that if they are not fixed, you will not be part of the approval process. Can you walk us through what really these concerns are?
Number one, I said that starting from 2020, government actually borrowed. So
you were making reference to the estimates to the various sectors.
Correct.
So there you see 2021, the Maslock will be getting about 48 million. Nation Builders Corps, about 672 million cedis. National Identification Authority, 200 million cedis. Free Senior High School, almost 2 billion. Government Communication, 4 million. Planting for Food and Jobs, 432 million. One district, one factory, 164. Water and sanitation, 90. Now, the cursory look of the figures as the rest continue: road infrastructure, railways, fishing, zongo development, up to nursing training allowance, teacher training allowances. For the average person, these allocations reflect government's own policy and how it wants to drive those sectors to help revamp the economy from where we are now.
Some of the expenditure items need proper scrutiny. For example, we were told by the government that the flagship One District, One Factory is being financed by Ghana Exim, for instance, and government of Ghana is not putting in any money. They're only facilitating. So why do we have that expenditure line there? Another example is the IPEP, Infrastructure for Poverty Eradication. The ministry has been abolished. we want to understand where the money is going to go and who is going to be in charge of that resources. And I think these are things that we should be interested in. And then if you look at some of the investment they made within that sector, yes, they spend money on some dams. We want to know whether the money they spent is actually represented the work done, or the work hasn't been done and people are being paid. Because there are rumors all over the world, all over the country, that some of the jobs as being claimed they have done, it has been performed. It's not really the case, because after 1 week the thing goes off, and why are we still spending money on them? We need to probe some of those expenditure items. But most importantly, taking you back to the issues that are raised in Parliament, that we, the minority members of Parliament, aren't going to be part of it until it's corrected. The key point is, one, we were told that the deficit is 44 billion. Yes, it's not 44 billion. The fiscal deficit is 67.3 billion. Government of Ghana borrowed 67.3 billion Ghana cedis from other sources to support the budget in the year 2020. So they are hiding expenditure in excess of 25 billion Ghana cedis. Hiding that kind of expenditure. We want that corrected.
How would that be corrected?
Oh no, we have raised the issues. We have raised the issues, and I know they will have to correct it. If they don't correct it, we are not going to support the budget. Because the fiscal deficit is not 11.7. They have to come to Parliament and agree that the deficit is 17.5%.
Now, if it is not A and it's supposed to be B, this is just a mere paperwork. And so how really will that change anything on the ground?
Hey, yes, and I like the point that you raised, that is merely a paperwork. It's not merely a paperwork. Excuse me, and that is the kind of attitude that we've had in this country, that things are going to go, things are that bad. The implication is severe. Eric, you are the family head. We have entrusted you with family resources for you to manage it on our behalf as the custodian. And you know, you have come to us and you've said to all of us that out of the money that came and the expenditure that you had to spend, you have spent 44 billion Ghana cedis in excess of the revenue that you had. Not knowing that is not the truth, but you actually spent 67 billion. So you, being the custodian, have driven all of us into debt. That if care is not taken, my child, your child, all of your production team, their children are going to pay in future. And you think we should just ignore it. No, we won't ignore it.
Now, again, so...
we won't ignore it. Because that is why the public debt is going up. That is why it's going up at a rate that we cannot pay. And Eric, let me take you through the situation of the public debt. Mm-hmm. You see, because of all of these things, that all of us think that we should ignore it, it is leading us into a level that if care is not taken, is going to be a problem. President Akufo-Addo, within the 4 years in office, has increased Ghana's public debt by 171.2 billion Ghana cedis. 171.2 billion Ghana cedis. Yet, he has very little things to show for. President Mahama increased the public debt by 84 billion. But Eric, the reality is that within 4 years in office, they have increased Ghana's debt to GDP by 20%. They took it from 56% and they have sent it to 76.1%.
Yeah, what I have here is 76.1 actually.
Yes, yeah. 76.1. That's where they have taken it to. From 56% to 76.1%. So within 4 years, public debt has increased by 20 percentage points. And then under President Mahama in 2014, 2012 took the public debt from 49.8% and then increased it to 56% at the time he was leaving office, an increase of 8.2% of GDP. Yet he has so much to show for it. You can count a number of infrastructure that he put across. 8.2% of GDP increase over the period.
The MPP obviously would look at
20%, yet you have nothing to show.
They have spent so much on the free SHS. They are 20%. Doing so much for the newly created regions. And of course, you made reference to the dams. You made reference to other projects like the 1D1F.
20%.
Government indeed has helped a lot of some of these small businesses by way of financing. And so you may look at it from the sector where you look at it as investment project in the health, education, roads, etc. sector. While government may not be doing much in these areas, they are also looking at it from the other issues I've just raised.
Eric, first let me say that free SHS is not being financed from debt. They've used part of our oil revenue for the purposes of financing free SHS. In fact, even if you assume that is part of the resource envelope, free SHS is about 3 billion. In a typical year, free SHS is give and take not more than 2 billion Ghana cedis. And you saw it, 2 billion. So you cannot blame free SHS out of
But
business.
in 2020, I think the amount spent is more than...
In 2020, the amount spent is less.
No, I don't know, but...
It's less. I tell you why it's less. No, it's less. Okay. I sit, Eric, this is what I do. I sit on numbers. It's less in the sense that you recall that they closed down schools. Okay? So from 2020, the entire 2020, school children did not go to school more than that because of COVID. So most of this expenditure was suspended. So it's less, far less than half of that amount that we are talking about.
Because that's not what I've seen in the books provided by government.
So they should tell us where the money is coming from.
I'll try to put it while we continue the conversation. But you can go
in terms of pay goods feeding and all of that, went off because they were not in school. How do you feed them? These are issues that we have to interrogate. Eric, now let me take you to some dangerous statistics. Some of the things that we have.
Let me take you to what government spent in 2020. What government spent in 2020, as far as the budgetary allocation for free SHS is concerned, is 2.429 257. That is 2,429,257,748 cedis allocation to free SHS.
Allocation or spent?
That's the allocation.
No, allocation is different from expenditure.
In 2020, what I see here as allocated is about 1,974,021, etc., etc. So,
Eric, there's difference between allocation and the amount they spent. In the 2020 budget, they allocated 2.4 billion. But the actual expenditure, the outturn is not 2.4 billion. It's far low.
Okay.
Because of what happened. This year, they've allocated 1.9 billion. It doesn't mean in the year 2021, they will spend 1.9 billion. The outturn may be higher or lower, depending on the situation we find ourselves in the course of the year. That amount you see there is budget. Budget is not the actual expenditure. So I can say for a fact that 2020, the free SHS expenditure was low because of COVID situation. Yes, they spend on some PPEs, but that is captured as COVID expenditure. But free SHS as a standalone is lower than anticipated on the back of the COVID expenditure. The PPE that they sent to school is not part of free SHS expenditure. It's part of the COVID
as we have this conversation, I believe that those in the business investment sector, for example, will be a lot more interested in the way forward. One key sector of the economy, which is also begging for a lot of attention, is the energy sector. In the submission by government, some effort has been made in spite of the freebies, i.e. electricity or power to those at the below the lifeline. Government is saying that we are paying the IPPs. And I spoke to Ejapa Mesa, who says that a lot of the debt there that is strangulating the government today is a result of your mistakes, because you took decisions signing agreements with IPPs, and the take or pay issue is actually a burden. I want us to listen to Ejapa Mesa. We spoke about a number of issues. Then I want us to look at what is in the budget now, and if the projections you will want to make is good for us after all.
Milking the people for the benefit of the people. Is that the suggestion? If the cow is being milked to feed the cow, then I fail to see the essence of their complaint. Assuming that their suggestion is even the case, then how is taking milk from the people of Ghana to feed the people of Ghana. So they should come again. Look, COVID was not a creature of this government. COVID is a pandemic. And please check the definition of a pandemic and let the good people of this country know. It impacted every single country in the world. Government has provided sufficient enough relief over the period. Lifeline electricity, 50% discount for electricity, free water. That's a current government. So why would that same government turn around and milk the people with COVID as an excuse?
The utility companies and the reactions coming from them is suggesting that we are only piling the debt and not necessarily taking care of them.
Utility company.
The IPPs.
The IPPs, you know the reason why the IPPs are not being paid? Let me show you a document from the World Bank which shows the shortfall as a result of the excess capacity that we've contracted. The total revenue that ECG collects for the power that we consume is 1.813 billion. The shortfall is 1.171 billion. Do you know what it's made of? It's made of fixed capacity charges of 1.03 billion. That's power that we don't use, for which we have to pay for. All this power was contracted between 2015 and 2020. And if you look at the graph over here, it will show you clearly that our peak demand, okay, as we speak, regardless of all the power that has been contracted, is still not up to the pre-2015 installed capacity.
Okay, so
what it means is that all the power that the NDC contracted between 2015 and 2020, we have in full support. If a 10 pesos levy on a liter of fuel is what is going to help in cleaning the environment for all to live in a healthy environment, then I'm in full support of it. If the reliefs that have been given to businesses is what is going to help them revive their businesses and for the economy to grow, then I'm in full support of it. And this is a balanced budget that has been well thought through, that is obviously going to be for the benefit of the people of Ghana.
Ejapa Mesa, MP for Secondary, in that strong argument, he made reference to figures at on the website of the World Bank, i.e., the debt that you are part of, and so you cannot turn around after creating the mess, in quotes.
The MPP have been in office for 4 years. This is their 5th year. And if you see a government that has been in office for that long, that engage in only criticizing someone who has left office almost 5 years, half a decade away, then it means the country is in trouble. The country is in trouble. Such a government is not worthy to manage the affairs of a country. 5 years on, still talking about what the previous administration left. Eric, the truth is simple. This is a government that, through their own mismanagement of the sector, have piled so much debt in the energy sector. Today, they want to find a nice way and exit and blame it on someone who has left office over 5 years. Again, I heard him make reference to capacity charges. A document that was sent to us in Parliament indicated that in the year 2019, they spent 5.1 billion. In that amount, they were saying is capacity charges. So after probing, we noticed that the amount isn't for capacity charges. A chunk of that amount is for the purposes of paying for subsidies. That Boache Jakun at the time has decided to reduce the prices of utilities, particularly in the power sector. Now, aside that, some of them, they were using it to buy fuel to power some of the thermal plant. So are you telling me that if a company has an idle plant and the government of Ghana has to pay, government will buy fuel into that plant and then plant will power? Is that idleness? That's not. They won't buy fuel because if you have a car that is not moving, will you buy fuel and put it in?
But if the car is sitting and
then the fuel will be going on and on and on and on. No, they are running it. They are accumulating subsidies. They are failing to collect the revenues from the sector, and that is why we are where we are. That's why we are where we are. So please, he shouldn't go there. He shouldn't go there. That is not the issue. And I can also tell you that, you see, this is a government that is only, all what they know about is to blame people. But 5 years on in your administration, all what you keep doing is to blame the previous administration. And I don't think that is right. Barak, the reality is that these people have sent this country into a situation that if care is not taken, Ghana will not be in a position to service a debt. Will not be in a position.
Is this not scary? Because somebody would say that some of these rhetorics only seem to send us a negative picture to
let me tell you,
those who may be interested in this.
Let me show you, and then you will know. You see, we have to confront the situation head on. Understand where we are. Learn from it by knowing what actually sent us to where we are, so that tomorrow we won't repeat the same mistakes. And then find a way of solving this problem.
Okay, so
let me take you a situation. Debt service simple means the interest you pay and part of the principal of the debt that you are paying. That's debt servicing. If you are to compare Ghana's tax revenue, not domestic revenue, tax revenue, taxes that will correct. In fact, in the year 2016, debt service as a percentage of our tax revenue was 66.43% under President Mahama before we left office. Okay? They came, and as of 2019, they moved it to 72.5%. 72.5%. Now, by the end of the year 2020, this amount has gone to 89%. Simple put, 89% of all the taxes that we collect in the economy, is enough to pay interest and to service part of, and to pay part of the principal that is due for payment. 89%. And are you conversant with, are you okay with it as a country when you spend 89, almost 90% of your tax revenue for activities like this? How do you grow as a country? Then it means almost everything else you have to borrow for it. Eric, the situation is bad. Now I'll take you to only interest, because debt service include interest and amortization. Interest alone. At the time we were leaving office in the year 2016, okay, if you take it, let me take you through the entire number so that you know. 2013, when we came to office, was 33.1. 2014, 39.6. So it means we're using 39.6% of our tax revenue for the purposes of paying interest. 2016 was 42.3%. These people came to office, and then 2017, they moved it to 44.61%.
But that was the time they were refinancing much of the loan you left.
What loan you left? Refinancing what?
Well, that's been the position of the finance minister.
Please, they did not refinance anything. They did not refinance anything. Refinance what? They paid interest. They increased it. At the time, you see, this is even dangerous in the sense that in 2017, 44.61%, I have a big worry. The big worry I have is that is the time that we had 2 additional oil fields. So we paid more tax, we had more tax revenue. So when you had more tax revenue, the ratio should have come lower, should have been lower, but now it's going up. But the situation got even worse before COVID, 46.2%. And then in 2020, it moved to 55.34%. And you know, Evans, Eric, I have a big problem here. In the year 2020, interest on a lot of multilateral loans like World Bank loan, IMF loan, Africa Development Bank loan were suspended. So government of Ghana was not supposed to pay those.
So that money was kept within the
system.
So
it was kept within the system. If not, this amount would have gone to almost 70%.
While it looks very
almost 70%
in terms
interest
of the
alone
you are putting across, sometimes I hear government, and it has been sustained since 2017, that in all this there seemed to be some positive reflection in terms of gross international reserves, for example.
No.
They've talked about 4 months, they've talked about 3 months,
No.
which all show that the books do not look that bad as you want us to believe.
Please. Nobody uses gross international reserves for the purposes of any meaningful argument, in the sense that gross international reserves, there's a good amount of it that is encumbered. For the purposes of argument, you use net international reserves. Ghana's net international reserves is in a very bad situation. It's in shambles. It is going down, and down. So they should not use gross international reserves for the purposes of argument. For God's sake. Eric, let me tell you something. Ghana has two kinds of debt. We have external debt and domestic debt. The debt is owed to you. Probably you've gone to buy treasury bills and all of that. Those are the domestic debt. And external debt are debt that we contract from foreign countries.
Foreign loans.
I'll show you one major analysis you conduct to find out whether you are in a position to service that or not is to compare that to your export. So we have Ghana's export. And I tell you, what do you export? Timber, cocoa, gold, oil, petroleum product, everything, bauxite, all of them. All our export, including banana and what do you call it? Everything that we export, pineapples, everything. Today, in Ghana, at the time we were leaving office, in the year 2016, all our export revenue, when it comes in, can pay for our external debt. So it is 94.6%. So you can pay for it, and then at least you can get approximately 6%. Keep it. These guys took office in the year 2017 and then increased it from 124%
to 124%.
No, in fact, they've increased it to 170%, because let me give you the numbers. In the year 2017, it moved from 96%, 94.6% to 124.22%. So it means you need about 24% more of your export to be able to pay for your external debt. External debt alone. In 2018, it came down a bit. You needed 19.58%. 19.58%, approximately 20% more of your export to pay for only your external debt. And then 2019, before COVID, this increased to 130%. So it means you needed 30% more of your export, all the export you do in the economy. In the year 2020, this amount, this ratio has increased to 170%. So what it means is that you need 70% more of your export to be able to pay for only your external debt.
So that is why you think that Ghana is heading towards HEPIC if it's not there already?
No, you see...
I'll take the response later. I'll be taking a brief break. When we come back, I'll read some of the text messages coming in. And of course, I'll be wrapping up with Ato on this debt issues and the figures he's raised. And then we'll walk into corruption and projects, because after all the numbers, what you and I need is how it will impact on our lives. Your questions or your text messages may also raise issues that Dr. Ato Kaisel Ato Forson will be addressing.
We are one man short. Should we invite him?
Yeah.
It be old cargo.
Can I join you guys?
Yeah. Always drink fresh, natural, eggs, mineral, water.
You still got it.
Always keep hydrated naturally. That's my secret.
Manufactured with the primary aim of preserving nature's finest minerals necessary for a healthy mind and body. X Natural Mineral Water. Simply natural.
Welcome back. This is TVXYZ. This is Wazor TV. For those of you following us on social media, it is Facebook or YouTube. Just look for us and join the conversation. I've received a number of text messages. I'm in here with Dr. Kaisel Atoforson. He's the ranking member on the Finance Committee of Parliament, the former Deputy Minister of Finance and MP for Ejumako, Inyan, Esiam. I'm sure your people are watching us this morning.
Yes, I'm very
and
sure.
They are very proud of you.
Thank you.
I have received a number of calls which are just saying that, oh, say hi to him. There's somebody who says he was your mate, you did national service together. And the text message he has sent here is, please, I'll try to mention the name. It says, great Atoforson for me. He was my classmate, national service together. I don't know. You did national service. Where did you do it?
In Dabuase.
Dabuase. I'll mention the name when we come across it. Yes. Yeah. He says it's Carlos Montcal.
Yes, it's true.
Carlos Montcal. He says, say hello to him. We were roommates at Dabuase during our national service.
Yeah, that's true.
When was the last time you saw him?
It's been a while, many years ago. I'll pick the number.
Okay, so I'll do that now. These text messages, this one says, Honorable Speaker, why parliamentarians is not even deliberating on the numerous taxes imposed on individuals, that's individual Ghanaians, but rather MP's budget slashed. And I want us to talk about that, where, you know, the Speaker of Parliament, even before the budget was presented, raised concern about the capping of the allocation to the judiciary and then Parliament. That's what Ablade is asking. This text message, sorry, I'm clicking on the same thing. This one says, I am Abdul Basit from Kumasi. It says, let's join hands to build our economy. We have hard-working president working hard to put Ghana on top. I salute the member of parliament, and he goes on to talk about some MPs, not really addressing a specific issue that case is raising. The naysayers and the hypocrites must now bow their heads in shame and render an apology to Mahama. Nanado described ESLA as a nuisance tax. Today, he's taking 20% from it from Ameri. That's Ameri bad deal and so on. It goes on to complain about other messages. Okay. Clearly, within the introduction of these killer taxes and certain alteration of government stance on taxes prior to 2020 elections, could typically describe this government as suffering from, and it goes on with an attack, which I won't read. Now, in all this, I'm sure somebody will be saying, so what is the way forward?
Eric.
Because we have not even spoken about corruption, which forms part of the money that we would have loved to see in the public purse.
The way forward for me is when a government agrees that, yes, they have created a mess. And then ask for forgiveness from the people of Ghana and get a political buy-in for us to move on. That is critical. They need a political buy-in. And until you get the buy-in, you need to admit that you've caused a mess. You need to admit that indeed your policies have sent Ghana into a level of debt overhang. And then we learn from it that going forward, whether we have to legislate against some of the mistakes that we've made in the past and to ensure that going forward we will not make that mistakes. But if you sweep it under the carpet and create impression that nothing has happened, it is difficult to get that buy-in.
You talk about
it is difficult to get even the international community to come to the table and assist you. You won't get that kind of assistance.
And is that what we are seeing?
And that is missing. It is missing in the budget statement. It is missing, in fact, it was missing in the State of the Nation address. The president said that, oh, they are better managers of the economy.
And investment confidence.
And he said, yes, he said that even before then. He said it was the better management of the economy because they found money to deal with the COVID situation. But the budget statement suggests that, and he himself knew that the COVID money, they are saying that they borrowed the money for it. So you borrow and you say that you are better managers.
You realize that sometimes the middleman doesn't know where to find him or herself, because when we go to the bond market, for example, the response suggests that it's positive. And government always says, these are the reflections on what we are talking about.
Eric, the investor out there who has some idle money will certainly loan it out to someone who needs money until he finds out that you are not in a position to repay, that he will lend you money again. They've been piling on, they've been taking, and now we are the blame. Let's see what will happen in the next bond market.
We don't have much time. If I check my watch, my time here, we have 5 minutes to wrap up. I want to find out from you. Yesterday, we heard Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. If perhaps he had not been sick and traveled that far to the US, where he is now recuperating, he would have walked through the Appointments Committee of Parliament, perhaps approved, and then we'll see all these numbers. Before Oseche Mensah Bonsu read the budget, the concern was, how would he be in a better position to defend the figures and speak to some of the issues we have just discussed? He seems to be talking from the US. He has surfaced after people have missed him all through the process. How significant or otherwise is his absence going to affect the debate which has started in Parliament?
I think, one, it is difficult to get some answers because now he doesn't seem to even have a deputy minister now in place to be able to answer those questions. And I give it to the
majority leader,
the MP for Swami. I think he did well in the budget presentation. He read what was given to him, and he did exactly what he has to do. What I'm not sure is his ability to be able to defend the issues, because he has not been with the numbers for, he's been in Parliament, he's not the Minister of Finance, he was just a assistant minister. And so he will have to rely heavily on the technical team to give him enough information to be able to answer.
Could this have been deliberate or coincidental? The question may sound very controversial because in the submissions and the conversations we have had,
yes,
the impression is created that government is not speaking to the real figures. And so when the substantive minister is on the floor of Parliament and speaking to issue, he can be held accountable.
Correct.
Here we are, is in the US, and from the hospital or wherever he may be at the moment.
Eric, we will hold the president accountable.
So on the floor of Parliament, isn't a comfort zone, assuming what you have said are the facts on the ground, because I don't want to give them any space to suggest that I believe everything you have said.
Eric, we'll still demand answers. We made a strong case yesterday. From myself to Isaac Kadongo to Jenna Paul to Eric Opoku to Achampo, Honorable Rekit, we made a solid case on the economy. And we demand answers. All of us demanded answers. I'm sure at the point the Speaker will have to rule on this matter, because I made direct reference. I asked the Speaker to make ruling on some of these issues, because without it, we are not going to be part. Our leadership agrees that this position is the position of the minority, that we demand answers, and so we are going to demand answers until that time. We are not going to approve it. But you see, Ghanaians are being made to suffer because of government mismanagement and recklessness. If you are to look at the budget statement carefully, someone created a big mess, overspent during elections, blame it on COVID, and he wants all of us to suffer. The budget, the details in the budget statement is very bitter. That's why I said this budget is like go home and die, Kofi Okuwu budget.
You mentioned Borin somewhere along.
Yes, it's Borin. It's bitter than Bar. It's a bitter budget. I've never seen anything like this. Since I became Ghanaian, I have never seen one single budget statement.
I see efforts towards road projects, hospital projects, school expansion.
What is that?
The agri sector, food planting for food and jobs and so on. allocations have been made, so government is going to continue some of these things.
Some allocations were made for
it shouldn't create the impression that everything is worse off.
Look, Eric, when you are confronted with a situation where government is heaping taxes left, right, and center that affect everyone. Fuel is going to affect even banking. It's going to affect everything in the economy. Prices of goods and services are going to go up. Fuel prices are going to go up as a result of this budget. I've never seen a single budget that has so much taxes, from Bola to Chacha, everything.
So let's wrap up. What would you tell the ordinary Ghanaian to believe in the MP on the among the minority group? What you would do in view of all these concerns you have raised? What would you do to at least protect our interests?
We are going to insist that at the basic level, what actually got us here are brought to the fore. We are going to insist that the numbers that they keep hiding, at the basic level, at the minimum, they have to correct that before we can be part of the approvals. Now, the taxes that they have imposed, we are going to scrutinize those taxes, assess those taxes. In fact, we will evaluate those taxes. And if we found out that any of those taxes is going to be distortionary, it's going to create deadweight costs, we'll reject them.
Okay.
That one, I can assure you.
So my guest has been Dr. Kaisel Ato Forson. He's the MP for Ejumaku Enyanisiem, a former Deputy Minister for Finance, and of course, the ranking member on the Finance Committee of Parliament. Ato, thank you very much for making our time. I've received a lot of text messages, and many felt we could have extended this, but we can't do beyond this. We'll follow you on the floor of Parliament.
Thank you.
And I believe our news team will continue to share the debate from both sides.
Thank you. Eric, there's no hope in the budget statement. I'm very disappointed in the government, even though I did not expect much from them. But, I mean, this is the worst budget I've seen since I became Ghanaian. In fact, since Kwame Nkrumah went to Equatorial Guinea.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, so that's how we wrap up. Ato will take leave of us. The program has ended. 9 o'clock is the time. And I believe that tomorrow at this time we'll be back again for more exciting conversation. I am Erika Hianyo. I'm doing this on behalf of Nana Abena Sewa, and the production team. Goodbye.